Welcome to another edition of Patriots No Huddle. Derek Haven, Steve Balistrieri as your hosts. As always, Mike Diabate couldn't make it today, unfortunately, but we'll get him back for our post-game show in a couple of days here. This podcast is brought to you by PatsFans.com. Please do subscribe to the Patriots No Huddle podcast on Apple Podcasts, Spotify. Like, share, leave us a review. Keeps us high in those podcast rankings so other Patriots fans can find us. Also, check out our PatsFans.com YouTube channel. Before we do anything, man, we've been doing this for too long. Steve.
15 years, buddy. 15 years. So I'm doing good. Every day that we get to talk about a win is always a good thing.
Oh, we're talking about not only a win. We did the post-game show. Not only a win, but Steve, I'm not gonna lie. I might have watched this game. I usually watch every game twice. I watch the game live and then I go through the film and I go through everything and I like to go ahead and diagnose it a little bit, give some takes here. I might have watched this one like 3 or 4 times because it was a fun one to watch.
Yeah.
You know,
Well,
when
I watched the tape, the all 22, and then I rewatched the game last night. It was on NFL Network last night. So, and a couple of those plays were just ridiculous, and so.
Yeah, look,
Uh, um,
I think Drake has arrived. I thought that was his my leftover thought, Steve,
Yep.
is that the we talked about prior to the game, and I don't want to be a fraud. You, Mike, and myself all picked the Patriots to lose. They were only 1 point or on each side, 1 point different from each of our other predictions. But what did you and I talk about? What did we mention on the podcast? We wanted to see the team compete and show that they were going to go ahead and go toe to toe. We knew they were and I still feel like this for what it's worth. I still feel like the Patriots are talent deficient and compared to the Bills. I
mhm.
still think they're the better team, but the Patriots played better that night. Drake, Josh Allen's a terrific quarterback. Um, I thought Drake may outplayed him. And you're talking about one of the best players in the entire league. So, what do you take away from it, Steve? So it's like, in one hand, I would say, okay, it's just a regular season week 5, win. Here's what I would say. Here's like my biggest thing coming out of that. Steve, if I was to tell you that in the first 5 weeks, they're going to go ahead and grab a win against a divisional opponent in Buffalo and in Miami. Yeah, they fumbled away the loss, so to speak, against the Raiders. They turned the ball over too many times against Pittsburgh. But you're getting 2 road wins in the division in the first 5 weeks, one being on a national stage. That speaks volumes to me. I think that's worth noting.
Yeah, the 2 away games that they've won, right? We didn't expect those 2
No.
to be victories. You know, they never win in Miami. Even wins were hard to come by.
Especially early in the year. We always talk about that.
Yeah, and I mean, it's and then to go into Buffalo. And it wasn't a fluke this time. There wasn't like a hurricane, um, blowing out there. It was just they played a really tough football game on Sunday. And, hey, look, they faced some adversity. Then they took a 10-point lead. They faced some more adversity because Josh Allen did Josh Allen stuff. They came back and tied it up, but then they had that opportunity with 2 minutes to go down and win the football game, and that's when I think we all realized. Well, we were watching it all game, but that's when I think everyone realized the Patriots have the guy at quarterback now. I don't think there's any doubt now. I think they have the guy, and we'll see where he ends up. But I think he's got a bright future ahead of him.
Well, I don't think there should have been any doubt if people were listening to us, in October before he was drafted, because you and I were talking about him about 6 months before that happened. But I not to pat ourselves too hard on the back there, but we kind of nailed that one, like Andy Borgalis with the 52-yarder to seal it this last week. So, look, Drake has all the characteristics of being a great quarterback. There are some throws that he made in that game that are just. I'm a football nerd, and I assume people who are listening to the show are football nerds too. You're talking about the rolling out to your right, throwing a pass down the sidelines, hand in your face, giving your receiver an opportunity to catch it, throwing a pass to protect your wide receiver. Reading coverages perfectly. Benjamin Solak, who does a great job breaking down film. My Twitter handle, if anyone's watching, um, I reposted his stuff earlier. It does a great job of just breaking things down, and just some of Drake's throws were just breathtaking, Steve. I mean, I don't want to oversell it, okay? But I will say this, I think the second half of this game versus the Bills, I think Drake may probably had his best 30 minutes that he's played his entire career.
Oh, I don't doubt that a bit. I mean, look, I go back to you know that drive. The Bills had taken the opening drive of the third quarter, go down and score a touchdown. Patriots get the ball back. Now they're behind. All right, they're facing a little bit of adversity because everything had kind of bounced their way in the first half, but they didn't really take advantage of that. So now it's 10-6, and you're wondering, okay, how are they going to respond? Well, May leads them right down the field, and then he makes that ridiculous throw where he rolled to his right and threw it perfectly about 40 yards in the air uh,
It
to
was a frozen rope, but
that was so perfectly thrown, and Diggs runs right at under it just as he goes out of bounds. I mean, that was like one of those, as I was watching the game on television, as it was going live, I was thinking to myself, that's a Josh Allen play. Those are one of those things we'd be pulling our hair out saying, how do you defend that? And you don't. It's just that's when you tip your hat to the other guy. And we've seen Allen do that to the Patriots in the past and to a lot of other people. And I was just like, man, that was one of those big time throws that not every quarterback can make.
yep.
And then the Diggs laying out on that sidelines. I mean, there was so many big plays in that second half. That
I mean,
and then
you're talking about Drake May going 13 for 14 in the second half. The one incomplete pass was basically a drop by Henderson.
Mhm.
184 yards. Fourth quarter, Drake May 6 for 6, 90 yards. I mean, we're talking about crunch time.
Yeah,
And if you want to say, and friend of the show, one of the guys that I love the most, um, Paul Perillo from Patriots.com, and I don't want to speak out of turn for him because I never would. Um, but he thought that May was shaky. I I don't want to. I'm paraphrasing a little bit, but he basically said that he thought the first half was one of his more shaky halves, and the second half was his best. And he might have said the first half was one of his worst. And Drake was a little erratic, but we kind of knew that going into the game, it was going to be a tough, a tough environment, hostile environment. We knew it was going to be tough. We knew the Patriots were facing an uphill battle. This is things that we talked about going into the show last Wednesday, a week from now, or a week ago. Now you're going ahead and you go up and you have to kind of settle things down. What did I talk about, Steve, all last week? I was like, they have to just weather the storm, just keep it close, and then you can make your move. And that's what they did. And that's exactly what they did. Because you know how games like that are. If you have a Patrick Mahomes, a Tom Brady, a Josh Allen, a Lamar Jackson during a regular season game in prime time, you know, lights are bright. Yeah, it might still be a little rocky at first, but they know those environments. This Patriots team hasn't seen a lot of primetime games in the last 2 or 3 years.
No,
Okay, and they saw one, and they're seeing one of the best 3 or 4 teams in the league, and they're on the road. They're doing the whole rivalry jersey whiteout situation. They have to be ready for that. And this is a young team with half the position, half the starters are new, half the roster's new, the coaching staff is new. So it's like, what do you do in order to kind of do that? And I think that is a testament to Vrabel for letting them kind of, I guess, for lack of a better phrase, like kind of just like, you know, take it, weather it, and then kind of steady themselves and then attack. And that's what they did.
right. And the funny thing was early in the game, um, it was Buffalo that was playing uh, kind of out of sequence, right? Massive amount of penalties, two turnovers. They only had one all year coming in. Then they had two in that first quarter. And sitting there watching the game, and I'm like, we were worried that this is how the Patriots were going to come out, mental mistakes, pre snap penalties, all that. And it was the Bills, which is really, um, that's
Kind of
not typical for them.
uncharacteristic for them,
Yeah.
right? Well, let
But
me ask you this. Let me, because I want you to continue. I want you to continue on your point, but let me ask you this: like, don't you think it's kind of interesting that the Bills came out like that? Because it's either they, and I don't know if you have an answer to this, and I'd love to do the truth serum thing that we talked about all the time, but like, would you say that the Bills felt overconfident, or maybe they felt like they were threatened and they needed to be more aggressive?
well, I think you can make the threatened part argument in the second half big time
Yes.
because uh, they knew they were in the middle of a rock fight and they were throwing the kitchen sink at
Hmm.
Drake May in the second half. They're not a blitzing team, but they were blitzing on every single down.
They were bringing the heat. Yep.
Yes. And I think at that point, they were like, okay, we didn't take care of business early in this game. And now we're in a rock fight against a young team that now believes they can win. And we've said, how many times did we used to say that when the Patriots were on top, right?
Right.
It's like the last thing you want to do is
Open that
give,
window.
yeah, that all of a sudden a team that's not as good as you, and let's face it, the Patriots aren't as good as Buffalo, but
Yeah.
but you give them that hope, and they're hanging around into the second half, and all of a sudden they're like, hey, wait a minute, we can steal one here. And we used to say that all the time. The Patriots can't
L-
allow, other teams to do that to them. That was during the Brady years,
Look
and
at the
and that's
Patriots. Look at the Patriots and Rams in 2001
yep,
before they won the
uh,
Super Bowl, the regular season. That's what happened. The Rams ended up winning, but the Patriots walked away saying, "We could we could take them. We're not that far
yeah.
off."
If we see them again, we can change a few things and win the game. and that's what happened to the Bills on Sunday night. I don't think they were overconfident coming in. I think maybe with that whole hype thing that was going on, the uniforms, everyone wearing white, um, the towels, the whole atmosphere of Sunday night football, maybe they got a little overamped because they hadn't really stomped on
Yep.
some bad teams.
Look at the Saints game they played.
Yeah, you know what I mean? So maybe they were a little amped because they wanted to come out and make a statement, and maybe they were just a little too fired up.
Mm.
And it caused them, all those pre-snap penalties and the holding penalties, whatnot, and that happens. I mean, it happens to everybody sooner or later. Yeah, it was surprising to see that first quarter because I expected it to be the opposite. Honestly, I figured
So,
the pit.
oh, go ahead. Sorry, my fault.
No, that was done.
Oh, all I was gonna say was, so it's like it's weird because the game. If you were gonna tell me the game went out like that, I would. If you tell me the Patriots win that game before I even see a play, I would say Drake May played his ass off, which he did. Um,
Hmm.
Terrific game. Um, yeah, a little uneasy at first, but overall, I mean, that second half was like, this is not me being Patriots like Homer or anything. The second half of that game was a top five quarterback in the league kind of performance. Like he just took over the game, and um, James Cook has had a hell of a year. He's turned into a great player. They shut his ass down. Okay. Um, Josh Allen, looked a little rattled. They didn't look like they had any answers. To your point earlier, Steve, the Bills defense isn't a huge blitzing team, but they brought extra guys because they were trying to do that. Now Drake rolled out a lot to his right because that was kind of what they were giving him. But that was less out of design and more out of just the fact that they were bringing pressure up the middle. And I thought the offensive line was okay for the Patriots, pretty good. I thought Will Campbell had a really good game. I thought he had a
I
really
thought,
good game.
honestly, I thought the Patriots' offensive line played a hell of a game.
No, I think
Uh,
overall, I'm not saying it was bad. I'm not saying it was
I
bad. I'm
thought Will
just
Campbell was fantastic. I thought, rewatching the tape, I thought Morgan Moses had his best game of the year. You know,
Morgan Moses. I think you and I are on the same page there. I think he did have his best game of the year. I thought he was solid. Again, I don't want to like over like it's hard because you have when you're bringing a lot of extra guys, which Buffalo looked desperate. That's what I looked at my wife in the second half, and I said, you know, the Bills don't use like Sean McDermott's defense don't normally do this. The fact that they're doing this makes me feel like I actually felt more confident seeing them blitz
they were
because I
trying to
was
force the issue. Yep,
because they were trying to force it. And I was
yep.
like, because now I know that they're worried. And that to me was like a huge like it's I'm not saying it's like a feather in my cap or anything like that. Like I'm just saying like they don't normally do this. They're doing
No,
it because they're worried. And so
yeah. Well,
now I feel
they,
like they're scared.
the Patriots withstood that opening half. It came out, the first half on top, and they almost came out a touchdown on top at the end of that first half. I mean, that was a bang bang play, but if Hunter Henry turns around a half a second earlier, they go in 10-3 at the half.
Yeah.
And then things would have looked even more different for Buffalo at that point because I mean I just thought, look, this sometimes this happens to really good football teams, which Buffalo is, and we've said this. I mean, the last thing you want to do to a young up and coming team is to give them hope, especially in your building. Hey, you know what? We can steal this one and go home with our heads up. And that's what happened. And that's why I think, yeah, and we're in total agreement there. In the second half, they were blitzing the heck out of Drake May because they were trying to force the issue and get a turnover, which would change the momentum in the game. And they didn't get it. And May played. I thought it was his best game as a pro. Um, and the Patriots stole one. I mean, let's face it. We expected them to play well, but we didn't expect them to go in there and win. And
Well, I mean, I think again when you're dealing with a team like the Patriots, okay, and you and I, obviously huge Patriots fans, we've covered the team for a long time in some capacity. Um, Anyone listening to the show, watching the show later, uh, they're all Patriots fans in all likelihood. We weren't expecting a win, but I'm not saying I don't want to have like a loser's mentality and say that there was no
no, but
chance. But, like,
I
let's
mean,
call a
you
spade a
have to
spade.
you have to be realistic too. I
Right.
mean,
You're going in a primetime game in a tough environment with, a
team that'll
relatively young
most people
season.
think is going to go to the Super Bowl.
Yeah. Yeah,
And
and honestly, there's nothing wrong with that.
as much as it sounds like we're pumping the tires on the Patriots, we don't expect them to go to the Super Bowl this year.
No, but you know what? Like, but I think there's a line of delineation there, Steve. Like, I do think there's a point. Like, we can sit here and say the Bills are more talented. The Bills we think are going to end up in the top 4 to 6 teams in the league when it's all said and done. And we can sit here and say the Patriots are a young team and growing, but we can also say they had a good win and they outplayed them and they did it on the road and they did it in a tough environment and we can give them their flowers, so we can go ahead and do both things.
Oh
Like,
yeah, and
so
you know,
it doesn't change the fact the Patriots beat the Bills in their own house in prime time. Great win. It doesn't mean that they're going to go ahead and do anything. They have to continue to build. And I'm not saying they have to like win every other game or win out, but like maybe that kind of springs you. You're coming off a huge win against the Panthers where you dominated another bad team. You go on the road and you steal one against a divisional opponent. Technically, you're only a half game against the Bills now for the
mhm,
division.
yep,
Now, if I asked you to bet $1,000 on who was going to win the AFC East, you would say the Bills, and so would I.
yeah,
So, but do I think the Patriots, especially with their schedule coming up against the Saints and Titans and Browns, or Saints, Browns, Titans, do I think if they win the next 3 games, are they putting themselves in position to go ahead and um steal a wild card spot? I don't think that's out of the question, especially if Drake's going to keep playing the way he is. Drake is the passing yard leader right now. He's completing a crap ton of his percentages. He's not turning the ball over. Yes, he didn't have any touchdowns the other night, but he didn't turn over the ball either. He's showing that he's getting educated in terms of not turning the ball over, choosing when to slide, when to run, picking those things out, getting outside the pocket, making the throws, his ball placement, his accuracy, everything. He's growing before our eyes.
mhm,
And to me, I always give young quarterbacks, Steve, 2 years ish. I want to see what they do. I saw him in the first year. He's growing in his second year. Now, if he's making boneheaded turnovers next season, then I'll be a little bit more harsh. Okay, I'll be like, that just can't happen. That's just not what you need to do. Especially because at the end of next year, we're going to be talking about whether he's worth $65 million, $70 million a year.
yeah, because
So,
they'll
but
be
right
having
now,
that conversation by the end of next year.
yeah.
Mm.
So it's a process. It's a growing thing, and
And look,
he is doing
if they
things.
play with the intensity that they showed up in Buffalo with, And not saying everything has to be perfect, but they come out with that intensity and the 60 minutes hard nosed kind of football. These next 3 or 4 games are all winnable. And, you could be looking at 7-2 or 6-3. And then you're like, holy smokes, they're ahead of the rebuild. And part of that is their schedule this year. But hey, guess what? No one shed crocodile tears from all those years when they had the worst schedule. So you know what I mean? It comes with the territory.
I got one
And
more. Yeah, I got one more final thought, kind of coming off of that, and then I want you to go ahead and jump to, and then we'll jump into the next conversation. But don't you think Stephon Diggs and Mike Vrabel are like a perfect marriage? Now, I do think there's a honeymoon period for Stephon Diggs. I don't know him, so I don't want to speak out against him personally because it has nothing to do with him as a person. But he has kind of worn out his welcome,
in a
you
couple of
know,
places.
when he was with the Vikings, the Bills, the Texans. Now he's here. His pregame speech, all I could think of is like him and Mike Vrabel have this team locked in and ready to just get into a street fight. It's like you and your buddies, you leave the bar 2 a.m. in Boston, you got a couple of sausage, peppers, and onions, you're a couple of Jaeger shots deep, and now you're just ready to go fight anybody you want. Like Stephon Diggs and Vrabel just seem
Heading
like
to
this
Chinatown, man.
yeah, right in Chinatown. I'll tell you the spots. I know them all.
Yeah.
Um, uh,
Golden Gate restaurant when the
oh,
bar's closed.
yeah, they only let me into half of them, but I know them all. But don't you think like seeing that stuff on Pat's on Patriots.com? Shout out to Fred Kirsch, Paul Perillo, Mike Deso, Evan Lazar. Um, like that that seems like just like a marriage made in heaven. Like they were ready to just run through a brick wall, and you could tell with if you didn't see the game and you just saw the score and you saw the pregame speech, you'd be like, yeah, that makes sense.
Absolutely. And, he was very emotional before the game, after the game. You could see it and you could hear it in his voice. I think this one really meant a lot to him. And, and I liked his answer because he was asked, is this a
I love it.
revenge game? And he was like, no, it's not a revenge game. I still have close friends over there. I have a lot of feeling for a lot of those guys over on the other side, but I'm a competitor and I just want to show the best I can be. And I thought that resonated, sounded like it came out of Mike Vrabel's mouth, didn't it? You know, no, it's not about, you know, a measuring contest, right? We're just going to go out and play violent football, as he likes to say. And Diggs personified that. And go back to last year with the Texans. He had worn out his welcome in Minnesota and Buffalo, but everyone raved about his leadership last year, and I just think he's a little bit more mature nowadays. He's he sees the end of his career coming. Not that it's right around the corner, but he feels like he might be closer to the end than the beginning now. Um, and and I think now that it's kind of all fallen in place for him, and he feels like he can be not just a guy on the field, but off the field as well, of being a leader. And
I think that for him, Steve, though, too, is that um I wouldn't say he for one, okay, let me back up. I think for one, I respected him a lot for how he handled this whole week. He addressed a lot of things. I thought he was great pregame, postgame, dapping up, Bills and Bills players and coaching staff, giving them hugs, kind of reminiscing with them. I could respect the passion that he held in the pregame huddle with the Patriots. His performance was terrific. I forget the number of yards. I want to say it was right around, was it 146?
146.
Yeah, and I think 70-ish or after the catch, a little plus 70. Um,
61.
yeah, okay, so right around there. Okay, so you're talking about a little less than 50% of his yards were after the catch. And he's moving terrific coming off that ACL injury. I mean, he's moving great. If they get that kind of performance, we talked last week about how he hadn't had a 100-yard performance in 24 games, and now he's done it twice in back-to-back weeks.
Yeah.
5 weeks
And
into the
this
season
one,
at
I
the age of
mean,
31.
I thought he was impressive against the Panthers. I thought he was much more impressive this week against Buffalo. Um,
You're talking about coming off an ACL at 31, doing this. It was like a time machine. I was like, this is like Stefan Diggs from like 4 years ago. Where the f did that come from? I almost had to put a
yeah.
dollar in the swear jar for Miguel. But it was like, what the heck is going on? So I think that's worth notable. It's just worth noting because he just looks like he's kind of rejuvenated, and that's a great sign for the Patriots because
Yep.
I'd love to get if they continue to get this type of performance from him, they're going to be in really good shape in that room, as long as everyone else stays healthy. Um, so we'll circle back to that, but I just thought overall like his answer at the podium after the game, Stefan Diggs, I mean, his answer at the podium after the game and just kind of just dealing with what he's dealing, with and talking about a former team and everything else. Like I kind of liked the fact that he was like, "Hey, there was that photo going around of like me giving Josh the side eye, but it really wasn't like that. It was, I've been meaning to talk about this, and this is like that, and I have admiration for these guys, and they're a great team. I thought he couldn't have handled this week any better, and I just have a ton of respect for someone who's like that because he obviously was hurt you know, uh, and I don't mean physically, I mean emotionally. Like he obviously was probably hurt when that move was made for him to go to the Texans. And then you go to the Texans, whole new state, whole new team, and then you get hurt, and then you're rebuilding yourself, and then you're going to the Patriots. And it's just like there's just a lot going on there. And I just thought that Stephon really came off really well this week.
he did. And, and it speaks volumes, um, kind of the opposite of what we heard, that so many of the Bills players went up to him pregame, right?
Hmm.
And, they were hugging it out. And, there was a lot of smiles going around there. And, we heard all this bad teammate type of stuff. But if he was that bad, would all of those guys be coming up to him? I don't know, you know.
No,
So
no,
I
I
know
agree with you.
he's a polarizing type of guy. Um, and everything we've seen from him thus far with New England has been really positive. I mean, he was working his way back from injury this spring, and obviously he couldn't do all the things that he would normally do. But he was there. He was talking it up with the players, and he seemed to be a vocal presence. And then once he got back in the swing of things, we didn't even expect him to start the first 4 games, right? We thought he might be on PUP. And, for him to go out there, yeah, the first couple of games, it was okay, but not great. And then last week, things started to open up for him. And this week was incredible. So,
Hmm.
like you said, if that's the guy they're going to have for the rest of this year, the offense is going places.
Yeah. Well, let's kind of turn the card over. I mean, we've talked about this for over 30 minutes now, and we still have to preview the upcoming game, obviously. And I still want to give our score prediction for not only our game but for a couple other games. But before we do that, I do, Steve, want to talk about the running back situation. Unfortunately, Antonio Gibson, who I feel like is a little, I don't want to say. I don't know if underrated is the right word, but maybe undervalued by some people, because he's a solid runner, can also, pass block, has good hands, helps out in the return game. Unfortunately, he tore his ACL, and that was confirmed today. We're recording this on Wednesday evening. Show will probably be posted on Thursday, but like that injury sucks, because he's gone for the year, and I think he's been really solid as a fit. And with the running back room, you know, you have Ramondre Stevenson, who has been dealing with this fumble issue that's really gotten kind of a little out of control. Um, you could look at it and say, well, the coaching staff had trust in him. They went back to him. And I would say, yeah, I agree, but I would also say, well, they didn't really have a lot of choice. It was really two running backs they had to choose from. One's a rookie who's playing in his fifth game, and the other one is getting, a lot of calls. So, um, or I'm sorry, he's expected a lot of volume, but he's also, making a lot of money. It's like, what are you going to do? You have Terrell Jennings on the practice squad, and you and I talked before we went on the air, expecting that um, Jennings was going to be called up, and they also signed what was it? His name was Joshua
Sean
Corbin.
Corbin.
Yep.
He spent
So
time with
there's
the Giants, the Panthers, the Falcons.
yeah. So I mean, is it safe to say that it's probably going to be Stevenson, Jennings, Henderson at least this week, and then we'll see where if Corbin kind of gets called up after that. Probably
Yeah.
as
Now,
like a
now the one thing, I mean, and again, I mean, you know, I don't know as much about this guy. I know that he played in the UFL last year. He led
mhm.
the league in rushing. But the other thing, uh, he had a lot of return yardage as a kick returner. And I'm wondering if, if he can come in and work the rust out because he has, since training camp, he's been unemployed as a returner. I wonder if he's active this week and gets a couple of snaps in the return game. Not so much in the running back thing, but they find a spot for him in the return game. Since Antonio Gibson, that was a big part of, you know, his value.
Right. Yeah. I mean, I think they have something to figure out there. The running back room is, I would say, fluid. Um,
Mm-hmm.
I've seen a lot of. I know Baltimore's had a really rough start to their year. I've seen a lot of rumors about like Derrick Henry being traded and the Patriots being interested, just given Vrabel and his relationship. I'm telling you right now, I'll say this right now on the pod on YouTube. I will donate $100 to charity, whatever charity. We will pick a couple, and we'll have a vote. If Derrick Henry gets traded to the Patriots, I will gladly donate $100 to charity, and we'll figure that one out later. It's not going to happen.
Yeah, I don't think Baltimore would trade him anyway.
No,
Um, I know
because
that,
guess
right?
what? Even if Baltimore's 1-4, they still have a good. I still think they have a good chance to make the playoffs. Because
Yeah, because I mean, right now the Steelers are ahead right now at 3-1, right? So you're basically 3 games behind the Steelers, but that's not a typical Pittsburgh team. They're not. I don't think they're that. I thought the Patriots should have won that game, even with the 5 turnovers. You know, so I think it's a little early. I know that they're beat up badly on defense right now, and that's a bigger problem than their offense is really. But I still think Baltimore might still end up winning that division because I think Cincinnati, I mean, they're in total panic mode, right? They traded for Joe Flacco, um, which I was thinking to myself, why didn't you trade for Kirk Cousins? Okay, but they probably didn't want to spend the money, which is typical for Cincinnati, right? So I don't know. I mean, there's so many questions, but yeah, I think if Baltimore's defense uh, gets healthy, they still might win that division because I think that's wide open. I don't think the Steelers are that impressive, even though they're 3-1 right now, and we'll see what happens.
Let's get into the Saints game, Steve. Look, there's a couple different aspects that jump off to me. Spencer Rattler, I wouldn't say is a threat. I don't want to. I'm not trying to be disrespectful. I just don't think he's that good. So it should be limited to the ground game. You got Alvin Kamara there, of course.
Man,
Tight end, you got Jawan Johnson. Um, Receiver, you're probably talking Chris Olave, etc. Hill's kind of like an X factor there. Defensively, they've been tough. I mean, let's call a spade a spade. I mean, the Saints are probably one of the bottom three teams in football. So, but you are, but you are on the road. You
and they had a big win last week.
and they did. So, what is your first take on the Saints? And then also, what would you say is the biggest thing the Patriots need to do to secure a win this week?
Oh, I think this week, and it plays right into what happened last week. I think they need to start off this game really well. They need to come out in the first quarter, assert their
You're talking about the
will.
Saints or the Patriots? You're talking about
Patriots.
the
Patriots
okay.
need to do this, right?
Mm-hmm.
They're coming off a big win. The last thing you want to do is have a letdown after that big win, and you start playing from behind, in the
Well, you
dome,
start smelling your own stuff, right? And you
right?
you let it go to your
I think
head, and
I mean, they need to come out and really assert their will early in this game and get out to a two-score lead early in that first quarter. I think if they're able to do that, then this game can get away from New Orleans really quickly. If they have that letdown, after, like you said, smelling their own stuff, right? Um,
right.
Things can get away from you in a hurry, especially down there. We've seen that happen before in the dome. So the last thing you want is the Saints, who are riding high right now after an improbable big win last week, to have that same feeling the Patriots had. You know, so that's why I'm thinking, look, they need to get on top of this one quick, and start clicking
I
again
just
on
think
all cylinders offensively.
to nail in
Mhm.
that point a little bit even further, Steve, is like, look, do I think the Patriot this is not this is these are not the Tom Brady Patriots. Okay, so it's not like they're walking in just dominant,
No,
right?
no.
But right, but I do think the Patriots, and this doesn't really have anything to do with the last one. I would have said this before even this last week. I think the Patriots are just a better team. So it's like sometimes it's like you don't want to poop where you eat. You don't want to play with your food. There's a lot of different sayings. Like, I hope they just come in and it's just like, hey, we're gonna go ahead and Saints get the ball first. We're gonna shut them down, whether that's 3 or 6 and out, and then we go ahead and drive and put points on the board for us at first, and then just let them go ahead and have them fight an uphill battle the whole time. Now, I'm not saying that the Patriots are gonna win in a blowout fashion like they did against the Panthers or have like this big amazing win like they did against the Bills, but it's like I do think that they are able to go in there and just do it, and I kind of want to see if they're able to do that because if they were to, if, let's say hypothetically, if the Patriots were to go ahead and lose this game, I have a hard time envisioning us not coming back here on Sunday evening or Monday night or Monday sometime and saying the Patriots didn't lose the game, the Saints won it. I have a hard time picturing that in my mind. Because I think in my mind, it's like if the Patriots lose this game, we're talking about them coughing the ball up, penalties, stupid mistakes. That's what I kind of see. Now, again, I'm not saying that's going to happen. I think the Patriots are going to win this game, and we'll get to predictions here shortly. But like, I do think that I can't really see a whole lot of scenarios because the Saints are really talent deficient. I mean, they're really going through a hard time right now, and and I guess for me, the biggest thing to show we've seen some growth, right, Steve, throughout the year, in only 5 weeks, but we've seen some growth, and I think what would be even a bigger sign of growth is for them to just kind of waltz in, handle business. It's just like an easy game from start to finish. I say easy game like they take the lead, they kind of just cruise through. It's never super competitive. They just have the lead the whole time. Don't kill themselves, don't shoot themselves in the foot. We see Drake May continue to do things, and they get out of there with a win. It's like, all right, let's just get the hell out of here. And
Mm-hmm.
and I think that would be a huge thing because then we're talking about them stacking games together, having to go on the road again the following week, and you're being an inferior opponent. I mean, at the end of the day. So so it's like that to me would be the biggest thing where if it was just kind of like a cruise control kind of win. Yeah, if it was a dominant win, great. I'm not gonna be a fit about that. If it's a close win, I mean things happen any given Sunday. But like to me, a cruise control kind of win, that's what it should be this week and next week, personally.
Yeah, and again, I mean, we're talking about all these superlatives after the last 2 weeks, and especially the game in Buffalo, but they go down to New Orleans and they blow this game. They're they've lost all of that momentum that they built up, right? I
Well, I
mean,
mean,
and it's gone.
wouldn't that be such a kick in the dick? Sorry, I know this is a family show. Sorry, I have a terrible it's the East Coast me people. I'm so sorry.
Exactly. That's
What
exactly what it would be.
wouldn't that be
Words
such
right
a
out of the mouth there,
just
because
wouldn't
that's
that be a gut
yeah.
punch if they go ahead and coming off that huge win in Buffalo to go down to New Orleans and lose to a team like that? It's like that would suck. It would take all the wind out of the
Yeah.
sails.
Uh, oh yeah, because then you're right back to where you were. You
Yeah.
know,
And
I would say that would bring you back to where you were before the Carolina game. You know, um, so that's why this coaching staff I don't think is going to allow that to happen. I think, look, if they dapped it up, they earned it. Um, but on Tuesday, it was back to like, okay, you know, let's get back in the mode, and we're back, preparing to go on the road again, and you know, playing in what can be a very tough environment. When things are going the Saints' way, that place gets rocking, and
oh yeah.
so you want to stop that from happening right from the get go.
Yeah, absolutely. Um, let's jump into our predictions, Steve. We'll start with the three random NFL games, and we'll just kind of talk about it
Yeah,
here. Um, I'm kind of looking through the schedule right now. There's a couple of okay ones. There's a couple of games that, man, like Bengals at Panther or at Packers would have been really good if Joe Burrow was healthy. I'd say the same thing. I'd say the same thing about what was the other one I just saw? Rams at Ravens if Lamar was healthy, but it looks
yes.
like
If
Lamar
they
would
had their defense healthy, You
Yeah,
know,
I mean, the Ravens are going through it right now.
I mean, they're just
Decimated.
getting absolutely slobber knockered, defensively. And
Mm.
I mean, they're giving up so many points and yards. I mean, and again, I mean, look how many of their guys are out. And I get it. I mean, we've seen that before with teams when they lose everybody. Um, but nobody expect. Well, if a month and a half ago we said at the 5 week point Kansas City would be 2-3 and Baltimore would be 1-4, you'd have probably had me locked up, right?
Yeah, yeah, you'd be in a straitjacket in a padded room.
Yeah, and you'd be saying, "Quit smoking that stuff," you know. But that's what happens, and it all comes down to who's healthy, and the Patriots got a little bit of a break last week. Buffalo wasn't healthy, but you
Yeah,
gotta roll out, roll the dice with who you got, and so right now, that like you said, those games would be great matchups this week, but I just you
yeah.
know
Unfortunately, that's just the
until
rule.
Baltimore
That's just
gets
what it is.
yeah, well, if Baltimore needs to get Derrick Henry going, and if they can get him going, and then get some of their guys back on defense, and hey, they
I
can
do
win a
not
lot of
know. I
their.
do not know if this is accurate after this last week. I have not looked at this. Okay, so people forgive me. Okay,
Mhm.
but I can tell you in the first 4 weeks. I know we've played 5 weeks in the NFL season. The first 4 weeks, Baltimore was the lowest running percentage
Which makes
on first
zero
on
sense.
first and on first and second down. So they
That
which when you have Lamar Jackson and Derrick Henry, that is outrageous. Outrageous.
that yeah, it's like what are they thinking? And I get
It's
it.
overthinking the wheel, man.
Yeah, I get it. Teams are going to try to stack the box and take it away. Well, guess what? Derrick Henry can run through stuff like that. But when you give it up and say, "Well, we're not going to," you know, we're not going to fight that. We're just going to start slinging it all over the place. You're giving your opponents, you know, all the fodder they need because now you've taken yourself out of your two biggest weapons,
Yeah.
and I just don't
It's
get
like
it.
you're
And
chopping yourself at your it's like
last
you're
week
chopping yourself at your
Philadelphia,
knees, man. Like
you
you're
know, I watched that game, Philadelphia and Denver was, they were stacking the box, but the Eagles have Saquon Barkley, and he carried it 5 times,
yep,
and I'm like, what are you thinking about?
yep.
You know.
Anyways, let's hurry it
Anyway,
up
yeah,
here.
yeah, this is a Patriot show, but
I know, I know. I mean, we could talk about. Trust me, you and I. The way you and I talk, we could talk. This could be a 2 hour show if we wanted it to be. Let's just rapid fire through these. One game I thought that was really interesting was 49ers and Buccaneers. Looks like Mac Jones is going to be starting again. Brock Purdy's out. Baker Mayfield's balling. Mac Jones has been really good in Kyle Shanahan's offense. No surprise. Buccaneers are going to be interesting. I'm interested to see them in a couple of weeks for the Patriots. I think that's going to be a kind of an underrated test for New England, but we're going to
I'm
circle
trying
back
to
to
get
that.
tickets for that game.
Oh yeah, I hope you do. Shit, I might fly in for it. But man, I've really let Miguel down on the show today. So 49ers, they had a ton of changes this offseason, but they're still playing well. Christian McCaffrey is about as good as there is in the NFL. And Mac's done well. Baker Mayfield's done well. Don't really know Mike Williams' status at this point. Or sorry, Mike Evans. Sorry,
Hmm.
Mike Evans' status at this point. Miki Abuka has done really good for them.
He's been
Um,
fantastic, hasn't he?
oh, he's been terrific. I mean, he was coming out of Ohio State. Everyone raved about him. Um, he was taken a tiny bit higher than I thought he was going to go, but I thought he was going to be solid, and he's been He's exceeded expectations early, and yeah, he's delivered. So he's going
Yeah,
to be a
him and
really good.
Baker have a nice chemistry going.
Yeah, 100%. So I think I'm going to steal the 49ers on the road. I don't know why. I'm just kind of going with a gut feeling, Steve, but I think it's going to be a one possession game.
Yeah, I mean, as always with Baker Mayfield, a friend of mine down here is a huge Bucks fan, and I tell him all the time, Baker Mayfield is like a vampire because you have to put a stake in his heart, or
Yep,
he's
you
going to
can't
come
kill
back.
him. You can't
He's
kill
going
him.
to come back,
Better
and
get that garlic ready.
yeah, because we were talking back and forth during the Bucks game, and he thought they were going to lose, and I was like, "This game ain't over. It's got Baker Mayfield." But I have that feeling with you. I think the 49ers are going to steal this one.
Yeah.
And Mac Jones been playing really well, and I'm happy
He
for
has
him.
been,
Him
and that's a,
and him and Kendrick Bourne last week were fantastic. You know,
yeah.
I'm so happy for those guys. I have no ill will toward them. I don't understand why people do. It didn't work out here, but we and this is probably talk for another time. But for all the talk about bad drafts, look at what the hell Tyquan Thornton's doing in Kansas City.
Well, it goes back to something. It goes back to something that Bucky Brooks I saw tweet out earlier, where sometimes it's not the player or the team, it's the scheme fit. And look at what Mac's doing there.
Yeah.
And look at what Devin Lloyd is doing now in a new defense for the Jacksonville
Oh my
Jaguars. Had
God.
that huge return the other night.
The
You
speed
know,
guy was incredible. He
yeah.
blew me away with that.
I mean, sometimes it, and this I'm not I don't want to say this. I'm not saying that the team shouldn't get blame for not identifying that they fit or don't fit into whatever they're trying to do. But sometimes the player just doesn't fit in a certain spot. And
Exactly.
and and I think Mac Jones, I'm going to use him as an example. He was a good fit in Josh McDaniel's offense, but they were
Hmm.
talent deficient. I also can look at it and say that he was immature and he didn't
Hmm.
handle adversity well. And then
And I didn't
they
think they
put
did a
him in a
good
bad spot.
and yeah, I didn't think they did a good job of backing him up.
No, of course, and I
And
totally agree with that.
and
And
I
now
and
you're
I
seeing
often
him in a scheme that works for him, and now
yeah.
they're backing him up with other talent, and now you're seeing him being.
Well,
I think he's making himself some money, Steve. I think he's
yeah.
gonna. I think
He's
they're
going to
gonna
get
be able to
paid.
trade him. He's gonna get
Yeah.
paid.
And he might get paid right where he's at, and they keep him right there.
Yeah,
But in regards to him, and I know you and I have had this conversation more than once. If Josh McDaniels had stayed in New England, would we be having a different conversation about Mac Jones? Now,
maybe.
he would still be limited in a lot of the things that his physicality, his arm strength, and stuff like that. I mean, those issues would still be there. But would he be the cerebral quarterback that we thought he could become if Josh had stayed?
I think that's
And
fair. I think that's fair to second guess. But I will say this too. I did think that there were some aspects of Mac Jones that were, and again, some of this is not all on him because I did think that of all the great things that Bill Belichick did, I did think the Bailey Zappi thing got out of control, and it kind of was
yeah,
like hearing
I
footsteps. You
I
know,
don't know what the motivation was there.
I think he was. I think he. If I had to guess, Steve, and we don't have to. We could literally again. We could literally talk about this for another hour. If I had to guess, he was trying to motivate someone, or I actually think it hurt him. I think it hurt him mentally, personally. But I'll say this: there was a lot of answers from Mac Jones where I thought he was kind of whiny and not taking accountability, coming off a little immature. His answer before, or really, really right after the game, I should say, he talked about how the 49ers brought him in to be a backup quarterback, and he was there, and that he knew Brock Purdy was the leader of the team and the quarterback of the team, and he was trying to get as many wins for him and the team as he could. And I thought that was the most mature answer I've seen, and I thought that
Yep.
was a sign of growth for him. And I just want to give him credit for that because of all the crap that people have said against him. And again, I'm not saying I was his biggest supporter, okay? But I can acknowledge when people grow up and change, and sometimes you have to realize
Look
that
at
these
Sam
guys.
Darnold. Yeah.
Yeah, look at Sam Darnold. Great point. It's like these guys coming out of college. I'm going to call them kids. I'm only 35, but like I'm going to call them kids, but I don't mean that in a disrespectful way. I just mean because they're significantly younger than me. But like they're coming out of college at 20, 21, 22. Like they're learning to be professionals. They're getting a bunch of money. They're trying, they have all these cameras on them. It's like, can you just give them a little breathing room sometimes? And I think that's a factor, you know? So something to bring out. Steve, let's go to Lions and Chiefs, and then we'll go to the Patriots. Um, Lions and Chiefs, I think, is a fantastic Sunday night game. Looking forward to that. I can tell you right now, during the Patriots game, I am ordering pizza, honey barbecue wings, and a nice house salad. And then if I'm not in a hot shower and in my basketball shorts, watching my game in my bed, right when this game kicks off, so I can doze off in peace with a nice cold beer, I'm gonna be in the wrong place. So I think this game's gonna be excellent. Both teams,
Well, I was
obviously,
at work Sunday night. I ordered wings
yeah.
to be delivered. I locked the door to the office. I had my computer on. I was watching the Patriots game, but everyone in the whole facility knew that Steve was watching the Patriots game because I was yelling so loud they could hear me on the second floor. So,
That's hilarious.
so
Obviously the Chiefs have not started the year the way they probably wanted to. Um, I think that they're going through some issues, and this is not really a Patriots homer take, Steve, and it has nothing really to do with the game. Okay. And you can expound on this if you want to, but I think if any Chiefs fan was by chance listening to the show, I would say this is why it's so hard to have sustained winning. It's not easy. It's not like every year is a cakewalk to the championship game or Super Bowl. I mean, as Patriots fans that are listening to the show, like even when you had Tom Brady and Bill, and I'm not discrediting Andy Reid and Patrick Mahomes. I'm not saying that they're not great in their own right. Okay. But it's like, guys, it's not going to be easy every single year to just get
oh, they
there.
went
And
through
they're
their struggles every season.
yeah,
You
and they're
know,
going through their own issues, and they still might end up in the playoffs. For all I know, they'll be the number one seed. Okay.
well, and I still think they win the division,
Yeah,
right?
and they probably will. But guess what? If they don't and they're a wild card team, they'll be a tough out. I have no doubt in my mind that they would be a tough out. But
That being
it,
said, I'm taking Detroit.
yeah, yeah. I'm taking Detroit too, Steve. And the reason is because I think one of the most fun players in the NFL, non-Patriots, that I love to watch is Jahmyr Gibbs, and I
Yes.
think he is just so electric with the ball in his hand.
And having Aiden Hutchinson back this
Mm.
year is such a boost for that defense because they
And
were
that lion
really
and
good.
and the Lions team kind of reminds me of the Patriots with Vrabel. I'm not saying I don't know if I want to compare Vrabel and like Campbell, but like they're both kind of like former
Cut from the same
players.
cloth. Yeah.
Yeah. Former players. They're trying to get their guys fired up. Their guys want to play for them. They want to run through an effing brick wall and like go through that. Like I just think the Lions are gonna come out and just do it. Now, if we come back on the post game show, whether that's Sunday night or Monday, and we'll figure that out when we can talk to Mike about when he's able to join us. If we want to talk about that, we'll probably be saying that Patrick Mahomes pulled something out of his, what, in the fourth quarter and made a play with his arm because he's just that talented, you know. But I think the Lions are top to bottom the better team.
Hmm. I think so too. And that Lions offense is just so much fun to watch. And
Well,
they
I
can
think
beat you in
Penei
a
Sewell
variety of ways.
I think Penei Sewell goes ahead and sets the tone on the offensive line. I think they're tough and physical in the front. They have a nice two-headed combo at running back. I think that you have a quarterback in Goff that has really kind of I never saw it coming. I mean, I'm not going to sit here and be a fraud. I never saw him coming and turning into the kind of efficient quarterback that he is. I mean, he is kind of like a death of a thousand paper cuts kind of quarterback, Steve, where he just,
Yeah.
he
You
just
know
kind of
who he reminds me of? A different sport. He's like a Greg Maddox, right? He doesn't
mm,
do anything except, I mean, he doesn't have the 99-mile-an-hour fastball, right? But he just places the ball where his guys need to catch it. And that was Greg Maddox, right? I mean, his ball placement, as a pitcher was just stupid. It was so good. I mean, he could put it anywhere he wanted to all the time. And that kind of reminds me of Goff, right? Because he's I don't think he's the most mobile guy. He doesn't have the greatest arm, but I'm always impressed with the way he leads his receivers when he has to, back shoulders them when they need it. I just really think that the Lions, caught lightning in a bottle with that one, because when that trade happened, I thought that wasn't a smart move by Detroit, and totally wrong on that aspect.
yeah. Um, no, yeah, I'm just impressed. I mean, we've seen kind of and this might be a conversation for maybe a bye-week show or something when we come up here, but we've seen kind of like a quarterback like renaissance almost
Hmm.
of like some of these guys getting like second shots or kind of progressing, and it's almost like Steve, it's almost like if you draft a quarterback and they don't succeed in 3 games, that maybe you should give them a little more time. I don't know,
Yeah.
but I mean, it's not like we haven't
I
seen
mean,
it. And
that Sam
Geno
Darnold, Mac
Smith,
Jones. I
Sam
mean,
Darnold,
yeah.
Jared Goff. Who are the other? I mean, there's like 3 or 4 other ones I could probably think of if I wasn't doing this on the fly. But it's like man, it's bad. But anyway, we're going a long time, of course, because you and I can chat all day long, um, and we need to wrap up. So
Yeah.
quickly, give me your thought on the Patriots. Last thought on the Patriots game and final score.
Yeah, I think they take care of business. I think Vrabel will have them ready to go. New Orleans doesn't give up a lot of passing yards, but you know, I just think Drake May. It's the game is starting to slow down a little bit for him, and I think him and Josh McDaniels are building that passing game. Um, I think this will be a big Hunter Henry week.
Mm.
Um, I'm not saying Diggs is going to fall off the face of the earth, but I just have the feeling Hunter Henry is going to have a really big week this week. I think the Patriots win this one 31-17.
I have a pretty similar score. Not shocking. I think the Patriots, Steve, are gonna. I think it could be one of those games where maybe it's a little close early, even though the Patriots might get to an early lead. I just think it could be close in that first half, but I could see the second half where the Patriots kind of slowly pull away. So that's kind of one of those games. I think. Um, I'm hoping it's not like that. I would really love to see the Patriots go out there and just kind of lay the lumber right away and just kind of build on what they've done the last 2 weeks and just show that the Saints are an inferior opponent. Um, I do think the Patriots are going to win this game as well. I'm going 27-16, Steve, for me. And I think it's interesting you said Hunter Henry. I think that's big. I don't know why, but I'm putting some money on Harold Landry to have 2 sacks this week. I think he's gonna get after it. He's kind of due. Um, I don't know why I have that feeling. You have your feeling about Hunter Henry. I guess
Yeah.
we'll circle back. We'll circle back and see how our predictions go. But I
Yeah.
think Harold
Well,
Landry's
I
going to have a
mean,
big week this week.
they haven't given up many sacks. I'll say that for the Saints. They've only given up 9 sacks
No,
this
I
year.
know, but I just feel like Harold's due.
But
I just
yeah,
feel like he's going to get after
we'll
it.
see. We'll see how the Patriots. If they get out to that nice early lead, that could lead into some sacks because I think that this will be one of those weeks like you and I talked about the other day. They're not playing a quarterback that's as mobile as uh, Josh Allen. So we probably see more man to man this week. And I think that they can shut down, and they have some good receivers, Brandon Cooks, Chris Olave, you know, they have a good tight end too. So, but
Yeah, Adam
I
Chapman.
think, the Patriots play more man this week, and I think they'll get after it a little bit more.
I just think Steve, I just see a scenario where if we talk about keys to the game all the time. And I think that if it obviously you always want to start fast, but if you can put the Saints behind the 8 ball early, it's going to force them to have those dropbacks and put the ball in Spencer Rattler's hands. And I'm sorry, I just don't think he's a legitimate NFL franchise quarterback. So, I'm not saying he's without talent. I'm just saying that, put it this way, if the Patriots are up
Right. I know what
7
you're saying.
and Rattler has to drop back and throw the ball, it's going to give opportunities for them to bring the blitz, Harold Landry to get something, and then there's some opportunities if you're playing man coverage in the defensive backfield to go ahead and make a play on it. And I think that they have the opportunity to do that this week, and I think they're going to go ahead and do that. I would implore people who play fantasy football to start the Patriots defense. That's all I'm saying. So, so I feel good about it, but we'll see. If they were to drop this one, it would be incredibly disappointing. Just given what they've done the last couple of weeks, and you know what, Steve, in some breath, you could say that it's a little bit of a trap game. You're on the road again for another week, coming off a big win at home, big win against the division rival on the road. Now you're going on the road again against what we all think is an inferior opponent. Don't get too complacent. And I don't think Vrabel will let them do that, but it does happen. That's just the nature of the beast. So that's something that we have to keep in mind as well. So it'll be fun to dissect this one. Steve, any final thought, or I'll take us out?
Well, I mean, you know, uh, we'll see a former uh, big guy from the Patriots in the middle this week, Devon Godchild, right? Playing for the
Right.
Saints. Um, so it would be nice to see the running game get going. They
Yep.
haven't had the running game going this week. It would, maybe some of those toss crack plays that they were running earlier. I would like to see some of that get going. Um, but that's the one thing because I think this passing offense is getting on track, and that's one of the things I hope we'll see more of this week. But I'm looking forward to a good game, and hopefully, we'll be back here talking about 3 in a row.
Yeah, I mean, that'd be fun. That would definitely be fun. So, for Steve Balistrieri, I'm Derek Havens. Thank you again for everyone who listened live to us to Patriots No Huddle, or who's watching us later, whether that's on our PatsFans.com YouTube channel, or maybe you're downloading us on Apple or Spotify. And if you are, if you could like, share, or leave us a review, it would keep us high on those podcast rankings for other Patriots fans can find us. I want to give a shout out to our boy Mike Diabate. He'll be back with us on our next episode. I know he wanted to be here tonight, just didn't work out. Hope everyone enjoyed the show, and we will see you guys next week. Go Pats.